We have reached a turning point. The war against general garbage and politicized entertainment has been raging on for more than 10 years now, often simply referred to as the culture wars, with its ebbs and flows. But with Harry Potter and the Stephen Colbert Lord of the Rings sequel, God help us all, an important corner has been turned. We are at long last rejecting demoralization, but be warned, even as we are crawling out of the mud, others are being dragged back in it. So today we are going to talk about what that means. But first, a quick history lesson to put this in context. In 1984, a KGB defector by the name of Yuri Alexandrovich Bezmenov gave an interview where he spoke about something he called active measures. This was a psychological warfare plan supposedly put in motion by the Soviet intelligence services to undermine and destabilize the United States of America. Many of the things he spoke about back then ring eerily true in today's world. Things like the reduction and ridicule of religion, replacing spiritual leaders with literal raving lunatics.
I am Arya Anna Miller, a beloved daughter of a God who loves you and me with an all-encompassing and everlasting love. We are called to be visible and to trust and to believe that all are made in the image of this God of love. And if that's true, then God is transgender. And that means God is not only masculine but feminine also. And it also means that God is agender and intersex.
Along with a shift in education away from teaching skills and professions and towards women's studies and liberal arts degrees.
I'm actually doing WGSS as my major, so this is like...
What does that mean? What's W?
Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies.
Oh.
So, like, this is... this
What
is
kind of
literally...
job are you going to get with that degree?
Yeah, like, literally, but for real, like, I literally, that's, like, I don't honestly know. I just know that I want to support women's rights in this world. I just know women's rights, queer rights, all of, because, specifying women's rights.
Another major focus of demoralization was also denying the victim populace the opportunity to escape from demoralization, to simply disconnect, decouple, and flee from reality. This would obviously be done by politicizing media as well. All media. And making entertainment in general preachy, dull, and grey. A soulless slop devoid of any and all passion and magic. By now, I imagine you're nodding your head quite vigorously. This does indeed sound uncomfortably familiar. Like being reminded of one of those idiotic things we all do. You know, the ones walking to the refrigerator knowing there's nothing in there you want. But you still go and look, hoping somehow, magically, to be surprised by the sudden appearance of something you know is not in there. Well, I liken that feeling with the position we found ourselves in with entertainment for the last few years. We are told about a brand new Batman TV show. It's set in the 40s and is supposed to be full of that old school Silver Age glamour. Oh boy, Viva Caped Crusader. But it is 2022. We know by now what to expect, yet still we tell ourselves, listen, it could be good. And then, it's not. In fact, it might just be the worst thing you've ever seen. It barely has any Batman in it. Instead, the show focuses on a race-swapped Barbara Gordon, not as Batgirl, of course, but as a rough-and-tumble lawyer protecting the downtrodden criminals of Gotham City. Side by side with her faithful sidekick, Wide Toya, the female cop that makes Batman look like a malnourished chihuahua. But hold on, at least it's made by Bruce Timm, the original Batman the Animated Series artist, so we're going to get some sweet Harleen Quinzel, right? No. Just like the fridge, this too will be a disappointment. By now, however, we are beaten dogs, much abused canines who can barely even remember what it was like to be loved, to feel excitement for a new entry into our favorite franchise. It seemed as if demoralization had finally, fully succeeded. However, something interesting has happened, and it has been happening for quite some time, rolling in slow like all waves of cultural change, brought starkly to the front with two recent news. The announcement that there will be a new Lord of the Rings movie, a sequel, God help us all, written in part by Stephen Colbert, of all people, and the release of the first trailer for the new Harry Potter TV series. This time, there was no cope, no more hope, no more expectations of finding a juicy cake in a fridge that holds nothing but frost-burned carrots and a screaming black ooze monster named Jeff. Who was once a casserole, incidentally. Instead, everywhere one looked, the internet was a pure and beautiful open sewer spewing out hatred and discontent. The absolute nature of the rejection was a heartening sight to see, as if the entire internet had downed a gallon of laxative purely just to defecate all over these twin insults. There was a genuine glee in it, as if, in finally realizing that everything was kind of awful, we had found a sort of liberation in it, being able and eager to utterly reject these things before anything was even done, hardening our hearts to strangle the abomination in its crib, allowed us to get ahead of the disappointment and to begin the important work of discouraging the studio from ever doing anything like this ever again. And naturally, of course, such rejections have happened before. It has been the bread and butter and the very fundament of the anti-woke movement, and the lessons we are giving to studios year after year. And mayhaps it simply seems a more total rejection this time. But it really does feel like something has changed, where even the most optimistic take I could find amounted to little more than, well, sure, getting bitten by the radioactive spider will near certainly kill you, but there is still the theoretical possibility you could become Spider-Man. This combines, too, with an obvious turn in corporate priorities as well. After many years of stick, and nothing but stick, even Hasbro had to come out and defend the turf-in-chief herself, J.K. Rowling. And apropos of totally nothing, a complete coinky-dinky-winky, of course, Andrew Garfield, the sad Spider-Man, see, I had a point for that previous reference there, came crawling out of the woodwork too, just so he could say that, yeah, sure, Rowling is literally the devil and Voldemort, but you still have to consume product. This wider pivot to prioritize sales over ideology can be seen in the near entirety of entertainment, with Disney dropping LGBTQ themes, and Paramount going out of its way to hire problematic men. All whilst the powers that once were the mainstream media that once upon a time dictated the success or failure of entertainment now sit by the wayside, forgotten, lonely, and uselessly crying as more and more companies choose money over agenda. Now, all of this has, as mentioned, been building for quite some time, of course, as the tide truly turned perhaps 2 odd years ago. But this latest dual release of the Harry Potter news and the Lord of the Rings sequel was the moment when the dam stopped simply overflowing and actually broke open. Both of these franchises should be guaranteed successes, like selling sweet water in the Sahara, but today it's more like trying to push toilet paper in New Delhi. As all of the things that I and others have been talking about for years, about the malicious destruction of entertainment and the relentless preachy politicization of hobbies, it's all simply common knowledge now. Take the color grading in Harry Potter, for example. This is not a stylistic choice like the old movies where the color grading got darker in each subsequent film, specifically to demonstrate the transition from bright and hopeful magic to deep despair as the villain was revealed. Nor is it an accident. This is $1 billion production with like 7 seasons planned and committed to. I would more readily believe that Buzz here crawled his way up this man's ass under his own locomotion than I would ever believe that the studio ratcheted the black sin slider all the way to the left and simply never noticed. In the precise same way, I know for a fact, more solid than gravity and gravy, that Black Snape was cast precisely because he was the least fitting man for the job. This is meant as a provocation, and to give the studio more eyes on their project through rage baiting. A tactic that has worked out so well for everyone else that tried, because, Harry Potter. It is an obscure, little-known entity in entertainment that really needs that extra push, even at the cost of alienating the core audience. And we no longer need YouTubers and social media influencers and our philosophers of the modern day to tell the audience that this is happening. It is simply known, Khaleesi. It is known that this is all a part of demoralization, not through an official doctrine, mind you, like in Yuri's days, but as a part of the organic socialist doctrine of Gramsci, intended on undermining and replacing all the key pillars of Western society: morality, entertainment, religion, etc. But now we see the flaw of this idea. Demoralization assumed that once a generation was indoctrinated, the influence would then spread and subsume both the preceding and subsequent generations, by overriding the moral norms of society and replacing it with something new and more prog-friendly. However, what happens when, instead of getting demoralized, we get angry? We instead say, no, shove a stick grenade up your arse and get aerosolized. Because that is precisely what has happened. More than 10 years ago now, many of us started to notice and never stop noticing. In fact, the last decade plus has been a veritable avalanche of noticing. Whenever we thought we had finally discovered the true slimy underbelly of the gross, putrid beast sat squat atop our hobbies, we soon realized that no, there were yet deeper, more putrid depths to delve. It seemed to only ever get worse and worse, to the point where anti-woke content became a career for many on YouTube. And let that thought just sink in for a second now. There was so much feces dripping off the walls, plastered on the ceiling, and running in literal rivers beneath our feet that pointing it all out became a full-time job. One continuing to this very day, and I can still be surprised by it all. The alt-right playbook video from a few weeks ago was an example of that, as even with all the context of the last 10 years, I was still shocked by the sheer vitriolic hatred displayed by people we barely even knew existed back then. And slowly but surely, we were all taught and trained to return that vitriol, until we brought movies, games, franchises, and entire studios to their knees. So, now, what happens next? Well, at the moment, we are in the tail end period of demoralization. This means that we will still suffer shows practically doomed to failure before the first picture is put to film. Some, like Harry Potter, because they were planned and contractually committed to 5 years ago, much like another famous disaster, The Rings of Power. These catastrophes are all the more tragic owing to their absolute inevitability. The people supposed to produce them are already hired, and the money to pay them already budgeted. Even should they produce nothing short of the most acidic diarrhea known to man, contractual obligations will still see their undertakings borne out until the bitter end. It's like standing at the bottom of a ski slope, seeing an avalanche of yellow snow barreling towards you, and knowing full well there's nothing you can actually do to avoid it. Other projects, like Stephen Colbert's Lord of the Rings, are born from the parts of the generation that were successfully indoctrinated. Peter Jackson has wisely kept his politics quite close to the vest, but leans progressive in all due likelihood. And Stephen Colbert, well, he doesn't lean. He is about as crooked as they come in this regard. He made his career out of being a pro-woke commentator, which would eventually cost him his job after a long and steady period of plummeting views. Hey, at least you can attribute to him the courage of his convictions, I suppose. The best we can hope for here is that Peter, who so famously stated in an interview about the trilogy that we put nothing of ourselves in the movie, this was Tolkien's story, not ours, will be able to tar-wrangle Colbert, but nobody has any faith that a man who made his entire presence and personality about politics will somehow be convinced to keep his politics out of the biggest movie job of his life. But knowing all of this gives us a key advantage. We no longer need to waste time on the whole, oh, maybe it could be good part of the conversation. We can instead simply move on to, nope, it's gonna be shit, and I'm going to spend my time telling the normie audience just that. I am going to explain and extrapolate on all of the ways in which this is guaranteed to be flowing fecal matter of the most viscous form imaginable. And thus hammering home yet again that this sort of entertainment simply does not have a lease on life in the modern market. We can build up and score the culture war victory before the battle even really begins. And if it does end up being good, well, the good part is we can then simply say, okay, well, we brought out the things that made us believe it would be bad, which are all extrapolations of the politics of the people involved in the history of the last decade or so, and we are now pleasantly surprised. Although I doubt we're going to need to make that particular roundabout on this occasion. Because, you see, if anything now, the people who were indoctrinated, the people on the left at large, are going to be even more eager than ever to ruin as many things as they possibly can, before they are dragged kicking and screaming out the door. But why? Is it simple malice? Well, in part, yes. But more importantly, I want you to give a little time to a thought here. Right now, the companies responsible for actually making entertainment are largely pulling back from woke productions. The Acolyte was Disney's woke all-in and became its Vietnam. And Star Trek Academy was Paramount's all-in on progressivism, and that quickly turned into their Stalingrad. We have hit and gone beyond the moment where the big children with their hands pressed flush to the fire finally went, ow, that really goddamn hurts, and started to pull away. Emboldened to do so even faster by the massive success of non-agenda driven entertainment. Take Project Hail Mary, for example. It is a story about a guy and his alien friend in space saving the world, bringing hope back to humanity, written by a decidedly anti-woke author as well. And it became an enormous hit. Dispatch as well, a classic cape story with only straight white male romances, conquered the internet for months. And in gaming, indies are outselling AAA games, and I mean, it's become a hobby now to track the fall-off of player counts on woke games like Concord or EX Voto. It is obvious for all to see that the audience that actually purchases entertainment has roundly rejected the demoralizing slop. For whilst yes, in a world of pure slop, one might simply not have a choice but to consume it, we are, fortunately, not quite there yet. For every woke Star Trek, there was an Orville. For every gay Western comic, there was a Demon Slayer manga. And for those without knowledge or access to these things, well, they simply chose to disconnect altogether, proving that even if presented with nothing but demoralizing slop, the option was not to consume it, but simply just turn away entirely. Proving now, to the point where even the companies must recognize the fact that if they wish to survive in a post-ESG age, they are simply going to have to start making money again. And that means making things people want to play or watch. We are on the path to that right now, though remember, the people needed to write and make all of that stuff, well, they're not even on the payroll yet. First, the creatives need to be found, then the good ideas hammered out, trial and error, etc. And we are still a solid half a decade away from good entertainment being the norm, yet again. And in the meantime, even as we are beginning to shake off the shackles of demoralization, as dawn begins to break on the horizon, others are seeing the sun set as they feel the chains wrap around their wrists. This is why we get something like a Lord of the Rings reboot, because nobody wants it, so nobody desires this, nobody has any hope for this. The sole singular reason why anyone is asking for it, and by anyone I mean people with a very clear and established agenda, is to make it woke. And not, mind you, even for the petty reasons of previous progressive entertainment, but as a matter of survival. Demoralization, you see, kind of flows both ways here. As I talked about in the alt-right playbook video, there are people on the opposing side, a worrying number of people, that genuinely do believe that all of the right wing, and by right wing I mean everyone not on the left, are either straight up Nazis, but lying about it, or simply Nazis in waiting. For them, and Stephen Colbert is probably one of them, the rise of what we would call normal, fun and entertaining media is in essence proof that the far right has taken over, and that now it will do to the left what the left planned to do to it. Indoctrinate children, normalize their belief and actions, and eradicate their political opposition. Now, to be fair, the last 10 years have certainly provided us with a plethora of arguments in favour of doing just that. And a little reckoning is certainly called for. But honestly, the best reckoning we can get is to just return to the good old days of quality entertainment. The days where we could actually be excited for a new release rather than filled with dread. It's better for us, and it is far better for our movement, as it will normalize our position not through fear or coercion, which is what the left tried to do, but by simply just being better. However, for those who did indeed thrive during demoralization, for whom it was a tool and a goal to be striven towards, they are heading towards scary times indeed right now. And I guarantee you they will try their damnedest to destroy as many things they can on the way out. Because to them, this is now simply a last-ditch survival effort. And we all know what they say about rats in tight spaces. This is why right now is a very important time in the culture wars. The opposition thinks they are losing, because they are. They will want to claim every last scalp they can before getting thrown out the door, poison every well, and try to leave that cultural legacy that they have so far failed to create. This too is an important point to remember. When people like J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay come into Amazon's head office and pitch their new Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power series, their intent is not to destroy the Lord of the Rings. They, and I am being very charitable here, simply think that their version of The Lord of the Rings, more diverse, inclusive, realistic, and grounded, with Mithril replaced by elven crack cocaine, is actually a better product. Perhaps not qualitatively, I mean, once again I will harp on the armor design, but morally, which to them means better, as making a more moral product is more important than creating a better product. This still, of course, translates into a ruined product for the rest of us, but the reason why so many progressives have been so eager to put their marks on everything, from Lord of the Rings to Star Trek to Star Wars to Batman and beyond, is because they view what came before as cultural landmarks, touchstone monuments that shaped our world and its view. And core to their ideological programming is the need to do the same, to program their ideology into these cultural touchstones. Only through this, by leaving a lasting cultural legacy, can they save the remnants of their movement. The problem with this is that they are missing the forest for all the trees. Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter did not become what they are today because they shaped culture, but because they were shaped by the culture of the time. Neither one was trying to do anything radically different. Harry Potter did not set out to normalize the abnormal. It was simply a magical growing up story. Even Lord of the Rings, which is absolutely laced with cultural and political lessons in plain view today, well, back then, it was all just perfectly normal. Nobody in 1954 or 2001 looked at the Shire and thought, wow, a homogenous society with quaint little cozy homes and no crimes more severe than vegetable theft. What a paradise! If only we could have that today. No, we didn't think that. If anything, we thought, yawn, when's the fighting and the killing going to start? But today, it is of course a very different story. We did not understand the charm and beauty of the Shire back then because we were living in the Shire. And even the worst consequences, even Voldemort, the great and evil villain, the man who must not be named, the personification of all vile, terrible things, frankly, he sounds downright fucking quaint compared to what we have to deal with today, both for our brand new citizens and the government that seems determined to destroy everything that is ours, largely through our brand new citizens. Therefore, as crazy as entertainment may have seen already, I don't actually think we have seen the peak of woke entertainment just yet. That dying rodent, struggling desperately to finally create that cultural landmark victory, will only try harder. Its efforts will only intensify if, mind you, we let it. As right now, we have a golden opportunity with the Harry Potter HBO franchise. If it fails as hard as the Rings of Power series, nobody is going to touch another big, decades-long franchise like it again for a decade. By which time, demoralization will, hopefully, gods be good, finally be nothing more than a distant memory. Then, and only then, will we truly be victorious. And this is the difference between us winning in 20 years or us reaching that utopian state in 5. Avoiding another Rings of Power, but this time from the movies reboot, is of paramount importance. Both to us and Paramount, incidentally, who would have to lean into this with $80 billion in debt. And whilst I would enjoy the idea of Paramount also exploding, well, the only alternative that would arise from that eventuality is simply that we take all of Paramount, Warner Brothers, and slot it in under Disney or Netflix. No, you know what? I'd rather deal with the devil I don't know than the devil I do know on this particular occasion. So, demoralization. I believe we finally are beginning to see the end of it. Now we just need to double down on all of the lessons we've learned so far, hold the line for a bit longer, make sure that a couple more of these suicidal projects are sent to the earliest and deepest grave imaginable, preferably filled with feces and spiked rocks, so that we may, at long last, return to a type of hope, normalcy, with good entertainment, where the announcement of a brand new entry into our franchise does not fill us with mind-numbing dread, but actual anticipation, looking forward to something rather than dreading its arrival, and viewing it as nothing more than, oh well, at least this will be a great opportunity to hammer another nail into the coffin of the people who fucking hate us. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see all of you again soon. Have a very good day.